Even though I'm worried about the storm, the Lord Jesus is my protector and takes care of what concerns me. Even though I'm worried about the storm, the Lord is my protector and takes care of what concerns me.
The Lord is my protector and takes care of what concerns me.
A year ago, I made a video about Michelle Phan, the beauty guru who allegedly joined a cult, something that I thought was an isolated incident. But then, the more I reminisce about the old days of YouTube, the more people I find that I used to watch have now ended up preaching some pretty weird ideas and acting a little brainwashed. It happened with Lo Anthony, with Michelle Phan, with Gabby Hanna, and now with Meredith Foster, aka Steeler Babe 09. Meredith Foster rose up with the first wave of beauty and lifestyle influencers on YouTube. She started posting back in 2009 when she was still in high school, and like many in early 2010s YouTube quickly became a career for her before anybody really knew that it could be a career. And she became known for her girl next door personality and classic 2010s videos like my morning routine, my hair routine, what's in my bag, what's in my room, what's in my locker, etc. She was also a member of a group of 4 beauty and lifestyle vloggers known as the Savage Squad, which consisted of Eva Gutowski, Taylor Dunn, Sierra Furtado, and Meredith Foster. And they would make content together and also seem to be genuine friends behind the scenes, at least until 2017, when viewers started to notice that Meredith was seemingly no longer in the friend group and had been distancing herself. Eva eventually addressed it, writing in a long YouTube comment that one of her best friends had been going through a tough time and that she had been cut out of their life after showing concern. She said, "Our best friend was defensive and stopped talking to us. It's only a normal part of what's going on, but it breaks our hearts because someone who needs love and support is pulling away from us simply because we know what's happening and they don't like that we address things and offered help. We've now lost our best friend to something much bigger and we don't know what to do because she refuses to get together to talk in person of what's going on and how we can all be there for each other. This is a hard time for all of us due to something bigger than drama, and it's a very serious issue. We as friends are totally heartbroken that something is ripping our best friend away from us, and as a result of that, we are seeing someone go on a wrong path and we can't do anything about it because they refuse to address important issues. I don't know what to do, and none of us do, but I'm certain that time will work itself out." Fans quickly deduced that this was about Meredith and that she was struggling with an eating disorder and was in denial about it both to her audience and clearly her friends and herself. She eventually opened up in 2021, stating that she had struggled with both anorexia and bulimia and is now in recovery. And as she talked about her recovery and her healing, this is when she starts to use a lot of religious language and cites God as the reason for her recovery.
God was like, hey, I made you in my image. You are a temple and you should be taking care of your body and putting things in it that glorify the one that made it, which is God.
Now, I say this in every video, but I don't think that religion or religious people are a bad thing in general. Everybody has ways that they give their life meaning, and for a lot of people that's religion, and that's great. I'm glad that Meredith is in recovery and is able to talk about her past struggles, but I do think that the way that she talks about her religion goes beyond normal Christianity. She seems to be a vulnerable person that has been primed for religious exploitation, and we have started to see some very strange, extreme, cultish patterns emerge. Before we get into the depths though, if you've been watching my videos for a while, you will be familiar with Aura. Aura are kindly sponsoring this video and are honestly one of my favorite brands to work with because I love being able to give you guys a deal on a product that keeps your personal data out of the wrong hands. Did you know that just by being online, people can get access to your full name, address, phone number, social security, all of your usernames, and any other names you may go by online, and the people leaking this data rarely face any repercussions for what they do? It's the wild, wild west out there, and your private details are at stake. If you weren't taking precautions with your personal information online before, this is your wake-up call. You've never been more vulnerable online than you are right now, and by using my code with Aura, you can protect yourself and your data for free. Aura will alert you if they find your phone number, email, or social security number on the dark web, and they'll also let you know fast if anybody tries to use your information to access your bank accounts, and will even give you up to $5 million in insurance should the worst case scenario happen. So click the link in my description to head to aura.com/Uncle Herman for a 14-day free trial where you can see what they can do for you and your data. And thank you again to Aura for sponsoring this video. So between 2020 and 2021, Meredith's online persona took a real turn from casual Christianity to pretty extreme ideas as she started associating with a California megachurch that many ex-members have called a cult. People inside of it will, of course, deny that they are in a cult and say it's just their strand of Christianity, but the ways that these churches operate certainly fit the definition of a cult. One church in particular is called Bethel. This is a church that was founded in Redding, California in 1952, and it went relatively under the radar until Bill Johnson took over in 1996 and transformed it into the charismatic Christian church that we know today. Bill introduced the Bethel School of Supernatural Ministry, which claims to train its students in the supernatural so that they can perform miracles and faith healings, as much like Joe Dispenza, who I talked about in my previous cult video, this church relies a lot on performing miracles and even goes as far as to try and revive people from the dead. And this really is the USP of the church. Students of the ministry are encouraged to go out and find disabled people in grocery stores and parking lots and pray for them to be healed. Now, cults are defined by a few key characteristics: charismatic leadership, extreme devotion, manipulation tactics, and isolation from former networks. And many ex-members of Bethel argue that it fits these traits perfectly, and this is the environment that Meredith Foster seems to have found herself in. Meredith started associating with members of the Bethel Church and claimed on her Instagram story that she had seen firsthand people delivered from addiction, eating disorders, deafness, and that the man next to her had been healed from a spinal injury, all thanks to the power and spirit of God. Meredith seems to have posted this story from one of their worship healing sessions in which they perform these so-called miracles and heal people supernaturally with God's powers. And she quickly began to echo the language of Bethel's leaders. And this marked a significant shift where her recovery seemed to be less about genuine healing and more about devotion to the church's extreme teachings. She posted a TikTok mid-lockdown showing her being baptized amongst a huge gathering of worshippers with not a mask in sight, likely because Bethel church leader Bill Johnson claimed that masks were useless, and another member of the church, Chuck Parry, claimed that he could heal COVID cases over Zoom. Unfortunately, their miracle healing powers did not work, as Shasta County, where the church is based, ended up having the highest case rate in the whole of California. But despite all of the evidence against it, Bethel keeps going with their rock concert-style worship sessions, attracting people from all walks of life to come and experience miracles, which really are the core of their teaching. They believe that miracles are part of a Christian's daily life, and that pretty much any issue or ailment can be cured by the power of God, even death. In 2019, they actually tried to bring back a child from the dead. This 2-year-old child's parents were part of Bethel, and with the help of the church, they started a prayer campaign to bring her back to life. And this made headlines for the absurdity of it, obviously, but also because it was so heartbreaking. Because obviously this child did not resurrect, no amount of prayer worked, and these poor parents were forced to accept the death of their child. And we can see that these vulnerable people have been exploited and offered hope beyond reason in exchange for their unquestioned loyalty to the church. And this is not the first time that Bethel Church has claimed to bring back people from the dead. In 2008, a Bethel School of Supernatural Ministry student moved to Washington and started a dead-raising team there that worked with members of the local fire department to pray over bodies found on emergency calls. Obviously, it did not work, but it does sound like a killer idea for a sitcom, I have to say. Bethel's reliance on so-called miracles, miraculous healings, raising the dead, curing diseases, isn't just a quirk of their belief system. It's a form of emotional and psychological manipulation that cults have used for centuries to keep their followers dependent on them. If anything that is going wrong in your life can be healed within the four walls of this church, why would you ever want to leave? Bethel claims to perform miracles every day, and on their website they proudly display that they have cured cancer, cerebral palsy, brain injuries, comas, and even autism, because according to Bethel's website, God wants to heal autism, and he has been doing this around the world via text message. How has God been doing this by text message, you might think? Well, what happens is Randy Clark of the Randy Clark School of Healing and Impartation, a subsidiary of Bethel, tells everyone who knows an autistic person to stand up and then send a text message to those that they are standing for, saying that God is going to heal them. So God is not communicating this through text. You are, Randy. As an autistic person myself, I have to laugh when people like this buy into this idea that autism is something that can be changed or healed. It has a big Republican anti-vaxxer energy, which makes sense because Bethel Church has strong ties to right-wing conspiracies. In the state of California, which has voted Democrat consistently since 1992 and is pretty liberal overall, Shasta County, where Bethel Church and many of their 11,000 members are based, has become a small pocket of far-right activists who believe QAnon-adjacent things like elections being hijacked by Wi-Fi and nasal swabs coated with nano-smart dust manipulating us all into being liberals. And many of Meredith's followers have also noticed her leaning this way, which is not the trajectory that her viewers in 2010 would have predicted. Now, obviously, I don't know if she's close with her mum, and what your mum does is not necessarily a reflection of you, but it is worth noting that Meredith Foster's mum stormed the Capitol at the January 6th insurrection, so do with that information what you will. People have also seen Meredith liking pro-Trump posts on Instagram, and seems to be becoming increasingly right-wing in her beliefs, particularly becoming very strongly pro-life. She posted a TikTok of her attending a Young Leaders Summit for Live Action, a pro-life organization whose founder, Lila Rose, has recently said that she is no longer in support of a second Trump term because his abortion laws may not be tough enough, as she wants a nationwide abortion ban. And to think that Meredith Foster is one of these people who not only supports an organization like this, but is also a young leader and advocate for them is so heartbreaking for many women who used to follow and look up to her. She is in deep. Bethel is really fueled by people becoming really obsessed and embroiled in religious fanaticism, and people who are prone to extremes. You can't really half-ass speaking in tongues and being knocked over by the power of Christ, and this is why I think that it is so appealing to people like Meredith who have been struggling for so long, as it comes in and disguises itself as salvation, but really it's just another coping mechanism that feeds on your insecurities and obsessive behaviors. Meredith said herself on her podcast that her life has been governed by extremes, from extreme drinking to an extreme eating disorder to throwing herself into crystals and astrology and natural healing, and now she says that she has found religion, and she seems to think that this is the end of that cycle and not just another extreme way of numbing the pain, because she believes that all of those things that she was doing before were a result of Satan having a hold on her, and now that she has found God, it must be the right path.
So I got into all that. I thought I was on a healthy track. I was like, I'm with my crystals. I've lost all this weight. I'm healthy. No. I was not. I was really led astray. So I went from like one extreme of the drinking to another extreme. And then I guess now, is that like, are we leading back to right now? I don't know. But I got out of the reason I stopped with the crystals and all the new age stuff was because I started reading my Bible and what God has to say. And I started connecting the dots of, well, okay, I can't be in the word and I can't be like reading all this stuff, but also believing that the stars are predicting my future. Mm-hmm. Like no one knows my future but God. So I was with these two conflicting ideas.
You were reading the Bible while you were doing the crystals?
Yes.
Okay.
This is really, people are probably gonna like, I don't even know. I don't really care what anyone has to say because this is my truth and this is just my experience. And I strongly believe that there was a foothold, that Satan had a foothold on me because I had one foot in that new age world and I had one foot out here, and I wanted to be close to God. I wanted to be in my faith and really know who I was, but I was still dabbling in like all this other stuff. And I needed to fully step out of that to really step into my walk with God, because you can't be in both.
This podcast, along with her new videos and persona, are all based on this Christian purity culture idea that promotes sex as a sacred thing that creates soul ties and basically promotes shame around people who sleep around or people who have unwanted pregnancies. Although she will insist that it is not about shame and it's instead about finding God and bringing people to God, it is very clearly about guilt and shame. It's just in a different package. You're punishing yourself and your body for being alive and being human, but it's packaged as a noble discipline that you must do in order to please a higher power who has given you this body as a gift. It makes total sense to me why someone would turn to this purity culture and religious fanaticism after a life of such turbulent struggles within yourself and within the public eye, because there is a community here. There are a lot of people who want to take you under their wing and show you the way, and you're quickly able to find people to indulge your obsession with, and it's not frowned upon or seen as fanaticism because it's noble and right and part of something larger than yourself, and you are pleasing God, so it can't be wrong. And Meredith seems to have not only found a community in this cult, but fans are particularly concerned with her new so-called sister in Christ and trauma counselor, Brittany Fairley. 3 months ago, Meredith posted a 20-minute video that would mark her return to YouTube. The video is called Grace-Filled Trauma Healing and was supposed to be the first in a series, but none have been posted since, possibly due to the huge backlash. Comments have been turned off, but many fans have taken to Reddit and TikTok to express their concern for Meredith, who appears in this video alongside her new friend and trauma healer/counselor, Britt, and their vibe together is strange.
Jesus, Redeemer, Savior of the world,
lover of your soul,
best friend.
Brittany Fairley's role in Meredith's life seems to be eerily similar to the handlers often found in cults. These are people who take on parental or mentorship roles to isolate this person from their old support system and ensure complete loyalty to these new fanatical ideas. The power dynamic throughout this video is strange to watch. Britt is a lot older than Meredith and has children that are close in age to Meredith, so she's already taking that parental role. But others have noted that it's also kind of homoerotic, with the intro making it seem like it was going to be a coming out girlfriend reveal video. The pair touch constantly throughout the video. They almost never let go of each other when they're talking. And then they add B-roll of them hugging and being all over each other, which is a huge red flag considering they are both talking about being sexual trauma survivors, and Meredith introduces her as a trauma counselor who has been helping her. And if that is true and they are supposed to have more of a therapist-client relationship, then the constant touching is deeply inappropriate and unprofessional on Britt's part. Britt claims to have credentials in therapy and counseling, but these have not been verifiable. The only thing that comes up when you search for her online are her website, which has now been made private and inaccessible, which is pretty sus considering she directed people to it in Meredith's video, and listings for her book, Choosing Life, which is a novel that she wrote in 2021. There is no evidence of her on any university or any clinician website, no testimonials, no LinkedIn, there's nothing. And people have been searching. My theory is that she may have created Brittany Fairley as a pen name for her book and has gone by that name ever since 2021, and potentially either had a different name before or was just not online at all, which seems unlikely for a therapist. But the pure lack of information about her is very strange for this day and age. When I Google the name of my own therapist, I am immediately able to find them on online counseling directories. I can see they're a member of various boards and associations. I can find their social media handles and heaps of websites that let me know that they are legit. They've been working in this field for a certain amount of years. I can see where they got their degree. So the fact that Britt has been able to avoid this digital footprint makes me think that she is trying to hide something. And the fact that she took her own website down as soon as people started searching it makes me wonder what we might have found there. People were able to screenshot the pages, but it just came up with loads and loads of videos that were now unlisted. So we can't see what videos were on there and what she was saying. But in these screenshots, she uses a lot of buzzwords like coaching and counseling and claims that she is a medical missionary, which sounds like a profession in which Westerners go to low-income areas of poorer countries and offer them medical support with the caveat that they will force their religion upon them. She has claimed that she knits hats for babies and prays for them. Every little helps, I guess. Many have compared her strange presence to Jodie Hildebrandt and the way that she came into Ruby Frankie's life and displayed similar behaviors and body language. I'm not saying that it will go the same way, just that the culty vibe is definitely there and something is off. Jordan and McKay have covered this on their channel. I will link their video below and I highly recommend it. They are both ex-Mormons and covered the Jodie Hildebrandt and Ruby Frankie videos extensively before we even knew what was going on behind the scenes, and they have some really good points and comparisons. It's also worth noting that Meredith saw this video and left an extremely defensive comment saying that they were coming for her personhood and were silencing her and her story just like her abusers did, when in fact the video was not doing this at all. They really listened to her story and were more expressing concern for Meredith in the hands of Britt. So many people believe that Meredith is being manipulated as she has a really strange energy in the video. She only really speaks when prompted and when Britt asks her to speak, and it feels like there is a right and wrong answer that Meredith is supposed to say. Meredith also looks at her with complete awe and admiration throughout the video. She nods along, she buys into everything she says. You can see her complete wide-eyed devotion. And I should say at this point that not everything that Britt is saying is bad. Some of the things that she's saying about trauma and the resources that she suggests are legitimate and make sense. The issue is not necessarily what she's saying, but instead the dynamic, the obsession, and the way that Meredith appears to be completely complicit and almost brainwashed. Before this video, Meredith had posted a video in February 2023 called Faith Favorite February. It was her first video in over a year, and she wouldn't post again until the comeback with Brit. It was a very strange 3-minute video bookended by Bible quotes that basically was just an ad for Britain's book, which appears to be a pro-life, pro-Christianity novel about a young teenager who becomes pregnant and decides to keep the baby. The video had the comments turned off, presumably because people were confused. It was very out of nowhere, and Meredith did mention that she had been talking to Brit, and so this seems likely to be the start of their relationship that has grown increasingly intimate and intense in the past year from what we can see. It's also very clear from the video that Brit is encouraging Meredith to see all of her past friendships as very negative. Whenever she talks about Meredith's past of unenlightenment, she purposely puts up photos of Meredith with her Savage Squad friends. I don't know if that was Meredith's editing decision or Brit's, but it seems very strange that she didn't just put up a photo of her alone at that time. It feels very intentional to implicate that her friend group was also unenlightened and bad, implying that they are part of her dark past.
We're not keeping up appearances anymore, right? Keeping up appearances is exhausting, and breaking that silence is actually the first step to healing. I love when Mare actually says that she goes, I am not a number
On a scale or a number on a screen, but my worth is in Jesus.
This separation from anything before is a classic isolation and manipulation tactic. It really does seem like Meredith believes that Satan had a hold on her before she discovered all of this fundamentalist stuff, and all of this spiritual hope unfortunately just comes across as really harmful delusion. Meredith's journey, much like other influencers who have joined cult-like movements, is a tragic reminder of how these groups prey on vulnerability. Whether it's the promise of healing or community, the reality is often a system of control and manipulation, isolating people like Meredith from their past lives and turning them into a mouthpiece for dangerous ideas. Her personality is now entirely based on her religious beliefs. She seems to be associating exclusively with others who share her intense devotion to these fundamentalist beliefs and has isolated herself from anyone who didn't align with that. I really hope that in the future she is able to heal and find her identity again outside of her religion. She seems like a very hurt and vulnerable person, which is often the perfect candidate for fundamentalist cults. It's easy to see how Meredith's desire for healing led her down this path, but her journey also serves as a cautionary tale of how unchecked devotion to any ideology, whether religious or otherwise, can lead to this isolation and manipulation and the loss of one's true self. It seems like Meredith is in this dangerous state where she has a long way to go on her healing journey, but she believes that she is completely healed in God. But genuine healing should empower us, not control us, and I fear that she's lost her own voice and personality in the presence of Brit. I hope that the internet's widespread concern for this relationship will eventually flag to her that this is not normal, and there is a good reason why people are concerned, because we have seen this play out before. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. I have, as always, been your Uncle Herman. Thank you for watching all the way to the end, and thank you to Aura again for sponsoring this video.